Hey everyone, welcome to Aya's Community Sing. It's March 10th, 2024, and I'm so glad to be here with you today. If you are here, please say hi in the chat. It would be great to know who's here. It's always such a thrill to connect with you. And I'm really excited to dive into this song. It's the song that we're working on today is Hildegard von Bingen's O Pastor Animarum. Sean, hello, my friend from Ottawa. Hey. I am looking forward to looking at this piece, but I felt like it was a great opportunity to sort of expand our horizons a bit today and look at some of the source material that is related to this song. It's a nice way to get a little bit deeper in. Hey Maria, hey Maria. So glad you're here. It's so nice to be surrounded by friends, old and new. So I'm really, really happy and grateful. There's also a time shift. We just here in the States moved to daylight savings time, so people in other parts of the world may or may not be aware of that, but it's always a doozy the first day we make this time shift. So I'm going to just get this link to our score in the chat so you have that available. Hey, Caitlin. Kate. Hey, Kate. It's so great that you're here. Kate's on Facebook. So we have, as I mentioned, this piece. I'm gonna just do a little bit of sort of explication du texte here, just a little bit on this song, and I want to definitely give us a sort of a seed to plant, something that we can work with that will help, as Hildegard would say, this sort of contemplative process of ruminatio sort of gives us something to chew on. But before we get into all of this sort of the layers here, I'd love to just take a moment for a centering breath. It's a really nice way to connect us all together and bring us into the moment. So I invite you to take 3 breaths with me. Breathing in, calming, quieting energy. And exhaling whatever needs to go. Breathing in, calming, quieting energy. And breathing out whatever needs to go. Breathing in, calming, quieting energy. And breathing out whatever needs to go. Thanks. And so we're going to start by, if you have your score and you have your translation, my translation is on the other side of the room, but I have it here digitally. I'm going to just share this for a sec, because we can. So here, O Pastor Animarum. Just want to move this over a little bit. I promise not to futz digitally too much here. But we have a very modest song. So in this sort of organization of Hildegard's Symphonia, this collection of 77 songs collected in 2 manuscripts, 2 primary source manuscripts, this song is only found in the Riesencodex. This is the later of the 2 sources. Not by a long time, but it is in the Riesencodex, or the giant codex, this great legacy of Hildegard's output. And output is a very 21st century term. I really mean sort of encompassing her intellectual and spiritual and visionary oeuvre. We have a very modest song. It's an antiphon. And it's according, to Barbara Newman's sort of taxonomy, if you will, it's an antiphon for the Redeemer, and it's placed in this group of songs at the beginning of the Riesencodex that are uh, dedicated to God the Father and God the Son. And this one, interestingly, also is found in another compilation, much, much later. A later compilation, I believe it's a 19th century compilation, where this song is actually sort of labeled as devoted to the Father. And it's not the biggest deal, but it's very interesting. And here's why I think that's interesting. We're looking at the song, "O Shepherd of Souls," and the sort of image or archetype of the shepherd is something we see all the time in the way in which we are viewing Christ, the Christ figure, Christ as a person, but also the way in which we see God the Father. And specifically, and what immediately comes to mind for me is Psalm 23. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." And it's so beautiful how just that first line of the psalm is so perfectly connected with this particular antiphon. Because we see, as we see in this sort of opening section, we say, "O Shepherd of Souls," the sort of proclamation. "O Shepherd of Souls, and O first voice, from which we all sprung." That is so Hildegardian. It's very evocative. And I don't know if there's, I imagine there is some other reference to some sort of aspect of a vision that's related to the sort of first voice. Often we see Mary as the sort of the first dawn, and we are seeing here this primal voice, prima vox, from which we all sprung, from which we are all part of, from which we are all an aspect of. May it, and then we have this sort of the prayer, the sort of pleading. "May it suit you now to deign to free us from our wretchedness and frailty." And here she repeats, "Tibi, you. Please, may it please you, you." And just that simple repetition gives us a sense of the emotional quality of this piece. And I think it's deceptively simple in that way. I don't want to make it out to be more than what it is, but I think it's an opportunity, as we approach this vocally and spiritually, archetypally, psychologically, and all these sort of different lenses, help build a picture for us. And it's a wonderful tool as we do pick up these songs, how we choose to see them. What glasses are we putting on? And what's the process we want to be taken on? So here, in a sort of quasi-mystical, intellectual, musical process, I want to look right into the heart of this thing. And part of that, too, is because it tickles my fancies. Let's look at the manuscript, too, and let's see how this is going to be sort of fun. I think it's fun to connect some of these dots here to sort of see how this tension or pressure in the pleading is being played out in the music. Something that is not ideally captured in this sort of contemporary notation, this sort of convention of modern notation. It's not a big deal. I know people that think it's a very big deal to sort of thin out the sort of original intent of the 12th century notation. But not all of us are equipped or prepared to do that. I want to give us a little door open. If you've worked before on notation, I know you know how wonderful it is. But it's also a barrier for a lot of people. So I just want to sort of wade us into that ocean. because it's really fun. And it's really indicative in a lot of ways of how we can interpret this. Okay? So, one last thing I'd like to say to sort of fertilize our seed of getting a little bit closer to the heart of this piece is back to the shepherd. And looking at that first line of Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And if you were here in our last, I think it was last month, we did the Erte Deus, and we talked about this, another aspect of that piece, which is longing for desires. And we're seeing something similar here, but the antiphon is talking about liberation from miseries, which is the human condition, and frailty, which means we're not strong enough to sustain the temptation of our miseries. And I don't mean that in a strongly Catholic way. I mean it in a very human way. And we see the shepherd here. We're asking the shepherd to help us out. Please, we're pleading with them to help us. And in the psalm, we're saying, as long as I'm being led by the divine, I have no wants. I have no need to quell or quench my desires. It's already taken care of. So there's a really big gulf here. There's a big divide between what we understand, this sort of understanding or truth of how, what the psalmist says, as long as I am being led, I shall not want. And the reality here on the ground, which is in the song, which is it's really hard. It's really hard to be in a place where a line like that isn't just an aspiration, but is a truth, an embodied truth. And I invite you, and I've been contemplating this myself, and I've been contemplating Psalm 23. I've had an opportunity to just write a little meditation on that at my church. And it was so perfectly timed with this song. It was wonderful. So thinking about how we're always being urged to cross this divide between an understanding of a truth and the embodiment of a truth. How we, wrestle with the miseries of our condition. I'm being a little facetious, but I'm dead serious. And the hardships that we do endure. And actually, I forget, what's the psalm? Someone's going to have to tell me the psalm, like as the heart desireth the water brook, so longeth my soul after thee. My soul is athirst for the living God. Again, another sort of deep, thirsty desire for a longing to be quenched. And at the same time, when we follow the shepherd, it is quenched. So, it's a wonderful place to be in this sort of contemplative middle. It's also totally unnerving. But it's so, thank you, Sean. I knew you would know what that was immediately. And I think ultimately the question is, and this is what I love about working on these songs, is that they're this beautiful vehicle to be driven around in from contemplating something to stepping forth into embodying something. The one with the deer, or the heart, H-A-R-T, the heart, the old-fashioned word for deer, the one with the deer. Monica says on YouTube. Yep, that one. That was Like as the Heart Desireth the Water books for any of my musical choral friends was the first Howells piece I had ever heard and and sang in a chorus in high school. And I thought, this is the strangest music I've ever heard. And I think I'm in love. That's a really special song. So it's another way to add some really beautiful depth to our process today. So everyone, I'm going to draw your attention to the piece of music. We're going to segue into music. And here we have, at the top of this score, you see it says R F466V. So this is a rubric that is a way of giving us some vital information, and that is the place in whatever source is being used where you might find this song. So we're going to do a little bit of detective work here. I'll do it for you. You just have to follow along. And what we have, as I mentioned, there are two sources. This is the Riesencodex, great giant codex. F stands for folio, 466 is the number of the folio, and V stands for verso, or reverse side. So in early manuscripts, we didn't have pages like a book. We have pages, but it's not paginated. Manuscripts are foliated, so that a page isn't sort of 1, 2, 3, 4. It's folio 1, side recto, side verso, folio 2, side recto, side verso. So here we have verso, which means the reverse or opposite side, the back side. So let's go find that. You can find this online. Hey, Casey. Hey. It's so great you're here. Okay, I'm going to just futz for a moment. Here we go. So I'm going to just get you the link to this. So everybody, if you don't know this, you can access the Riesencodex. So many amazing things are digitized online. So here we have the front cover, and I want to just show you here, if we go to content, we're going to, everybody hopefully see what I'm seeing. You should. Okay, it looks like you are. So I'm just going to go to Symphonia, and you see the different folio numbers here that correspond with these different sections of the Riesencodex. There's a lot, as we talked about. This is a real legacy. Go to the Symphonia. Beautiful. Now I'm just going to open this up a bit. Beautiful. And here you see folio 466, and this is the front side, so it's recto Latin. And we're going to go, here we go, I'm just going to page down. You see how huge this is. Now this particular folio has 2 columns, which isn't always the case. And the other manuscript source, the Dendermonde Codex, does not have 2 columns. It's smaller. But we need to go to the next side, 466, verso. And here we have it. Here is our beautiful antiphon. I think I need to give us some more space here. Beautiful. Can everyone see that okay? Oh, good. I will go in a little bit. Let's see if I can. It's cut off. Okay. That should be okay. So we've got 3 lines here, everybody. And the way, without going into a huge, without launching into a whole notational sort of lecture, I just want to talk about some basics here. Orient your eyes and help us see the ways in which this notational language can inform our process a bit. So you see, we have a 4-line staff, not a 5-line staff. It's typical chant sort of staff that was basically invented not much earlier than this manuscript was actually written, maybe 100 years, by Guido of Arezzo. But here we have some really helpful indications. We have a C clef right here. And notice this line is sort of yellowish and sort of thickened. And we have an F line here, this red line. And of course, we kind of transpose ourselves here, which is often the case, especially in the very rangy music of Hildegard. We're constantly shifting here. You see a C and an F, and it's just sort of always sort of indicating where we are on the page. And here on the side, in this beautiful larger O initial, we have another rubric here. See this A? This is parlance for antiphon, and it doesn't say anything other than that. But here we are. Now, this wonderful, wonderful opening O. So often, I feel like all of the songs we've had this year have had this opening fifth. Where are we here? Line. And what you see is this neum that has this real sense of verticality. It's called a pes or podatus. And you see it has like a foot at the bottom, and it has this extended line. And the note that we read, of course, is the top. And you didn't even have to read notation to understand that, because that's what you heard, right? Yeah. So we're not filling in the middle. We're just indicating the first note and the sort of final note. So what I really want to draw your attention to in this piece in particular, we have a couple of ways of indicating a musical tension. And I would argue a rhetorical tension. So we have it in the second neum, here on pastor. We have what's called a pressus. And the pressus is literally pressing, vocally pressing, not from here. It's a musical press. And by musical, meaning we don't stress our voice, but we have this sort of pressing in of musical tension. We could translate that a number of ways, but I'm going to keep going. And there's a number of these sort of pressus neums throughout the piece. We also see these sort of swooping lines. I want to say three things about this sort of tension. We have these sweeping lines that bring us up and out, this sort of pleating up like this. And then we also have just a sort of a sense of I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the place that I really want to show you. I might not be able to find what I mean. It might be easier as we go into the music, where we're also coming into a melodic tension. So there are places in the mode where we just sort of meet this wall of dissonance, and it's creating this difficult kind of musical tension, and it's painting a picture. And what I'd love for you to play with as we get into the music, which we will in a moment, is how we can lean in, not to sort of make a musical point like we would if there's like a lowered second or some really, really juicy, yummy kind of dissonance. I don't mean to put it so on the nose like that. I mean to let it inform your process. When we have a musical tension, and we have some spiritual tension, I think that's what I want to say. How do we kind of play with that creatively? Not as a game, but as a way of really expressing something that's a bit deeper, that might be under the surface, that might be helping us explore something. And in this case, how are we speaking to the shepherd? As one who can relieve our miseries. As one who can help us move through whatever obstacles are holding us back towards actually going through the divide between knowing a truth and embodying a truth. And what insights might appear to us in the process. So I'm going to leave this up so you can sort of keep your eyes on it. And go back and forth as you will. You're going to see a lot. The notation is actually, it might, if you're not familiar with this, it might look crazy, but it's actually fairly straightforward. And if you've ever read square notation on a sort of typical chant notation that also uses a 4-line staff, you're going to see a lot of similarities. The sort of figures, sort of the scribal qualities, I can't think of the word that I want, might look different. It's obviously not square notation, which was another technological advance of Guido, along with the 4-line staff. But notice we're using a 4-line staff, but there's no square notation. It's interesting, when technology of notation advances, there are many wonderful things as technology advances, but we also strip away some really important nuance. Such is the way of our evolution. What? Everybody, I invite you to sing with me. I'm just going to sort of anchor myself in my heart. Take a breath. Let's do the opening fifth. Just enter the portal, right? Here we go. Oh, beautiful. Now we've got that second noom, the presus. Oh, pastor, are the notes, right? But what does that mean to have a press? And in the conventional notation, the modern notation, I put a tenuto, that little sort of line right below the note. It could be above or below, it doesn't matter. But that, again, it's not necessarily a hold, it's a convention, but it does imply a pressure. So let's try that, just those two words. Ready? Oh, pastor. And a re-articulation of that note. Try one more time. Oh, pastor. Yeah. There's a sense of really planting yourself in that moment. Being in that moment. Let's do the whole line. Yes, that is so unusual. It feels like a mistake, but it's not a mistake. We look here. Bum, 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 bum. But then we're really sort of, we're moving. And I see the next line will give us the next clue about where we're going. I shifted us down into C from D, which seems quite natural. Let's sing this. Could we sing animarum et? Could we just do that much? Here we go. Ready, everybody? Animarum et. It's like the sun's coming out behind the clouds. Let's sing the whole second line now. Here's how it goes. Et I really want there to be something that's not in the score, but it's confounding me a little bit. Let's try line 2 all together, everybody. Ready? Et I those two lines, 1 and 2, together. Ready? O pastor, animarum et and maybe there's a better place to breathe in there. I'm sure there is. Let's keep going, because now we say per quam omnes creati sumus. Per quam omnes. We've got some really yummy things there. It's sort of lower in the range. It's bringing us into this sort of more sort of closed place, I feel. Ready, everybody? Just those 3 words. Per quam omnes. I want to talk about this letter M in parentheses. If you've been doing this with me, you probably have seen this before if you've worked with these scores. That parenthetical syllable is what's known as a liquescent note. We would literally close down on whatever particular consonant or vowel sometimes that would be. And it can be incredibly awkward sometimes. But let's see where we're. Per quam omnes. And here we see, I'm just going to talk about the notation here. We have virga, per quam, and we have a punctum. It's the point. And you can sense the difference in the weight of those things. Per quam, and we're moving right through that punctum into omnes. And we have a omnes, a quick little, another sort of punctum that's ascending, and then this little tail, it's liquescent, known as a plica, and that would indicate we're closing down into this virga, into the sort of almost like a building block of this notation. Can we sing that again? Ready? And per quam omnes. Beautiful. This is a really gorgeous next part of the phrase. Have a listen. That word is all over the place. Could we try that all together? Here we go. And creati. Good. And then here's the last word. Can we try that, everybody? Ready? And beautiful. Let's try all of line 3. And per quam omnes creati sumus. And now pleading. Nunc tibi. Can we try that all together? And nunc tibi. Now we are raising up the voice. Tibi placeat. Ready? Second half of the phrase. Tibi placeat. Tibi placeat. Beautiful. Oh, you feel that? It's this gesture. Nunc tibi, line 4. Nunc tibi, tibi placeat. Beautiful. Let's keep going. Now we're sort of moving back down the scale here. Ut tinieris. Listen to that that one more time. Sing along if you'd like. We'll do that 2 more times. Ut tinieris. Let's try that one more time all together. Ready? And ut tinieris. Beautiful, beautiful. And now, line 6. Nos liberare de miseriis. To free us from our miseries. That's not funny. Here we go. I'd love for you to just sing the word nos, our. Let's try that. Ready? Nos. Good job. Let's look at that on our manuscript here. Dum da da dum. There's a really beautiful sort of on the podatus here. We have a podatus with a. I'm not sure if it's a perectus or torculus. It doesn't matter. It's sort of this beautiful sort of wave-like noon. And I want you to just kind of imagine sort of swinging that. Okay? And how would something like that lead us into the next thing, sort of giving us energy to sort of move into this word liberare? The whole point. Liberare. Let's try it all together. Nos liberare. We can do it together. We'll do it 2 times. Ready? Nos liberare. Good. Let's try that again. Ready? Nos liberare. Beautiful. Let's go on. Let's try that all together. De miseriis. De miseriis. Let's try all of line 6, everybody. We'll put that together. Nos liberare de miseriis. Nos liberare. Et languoribus nostris. And our languishing, right? So if we have miseries, they're causing us to languish. Et languoribus. That's a crazy word. You see this sort of extension of that. And you hear it in line 3. It's right there. I want to just double check our chat. Monica, rather convenient that they make the transposition obvious by tracking the color up. Oh, we're talking about the manuscript. It is so convenient. Yes, and Casey says beautiful. Let's go back. Line 7. I'd like to do et languoribus. Stay with it, stay with it. And we're going to sort of get through the notes, and then I want to put the word together. This is something we're going to sort of go back to the manuscript on this too. It's so easy to forget, especially in chant that is constructed visually and sort of notationally or linguistically bisyllable. It's how we're notating this music. But syllables don't mean anything. Words have meaning, right? So we're going to put the word together. Let's just go up for those 2 words, et languoribus. Et languoribus. Good. Could us, guys. Could we just try that really beautiful, beautiful turn? Something very melodious about that. Interesting. Beautiful. Could we sing rebus together? Ready? Rebus. Beautiful. And here's the last word. Nostris. Can we try that together? Nostris. Could we try rebus nostris? We're just going to piece this together. Ready? And rebus nostris. Beautiful. Let's do the whole line. I'm going to suggest breathing before re, if you feel like that's a good place. We need to breathe somewhere. I'm going to breathe before nostris, but I don't know about you, but I feel like I need another breath somewhere. So there's no breath police here. We're just going to do what we need to do. Here we go. Whole line. Ready? Isn't that gorgeous? There's a really interesting dichotomy here between this sort of emotional tension that we've been talking about, this sort of pleading, a thirstness, and the sweetness of the music. We get these sweeping lines and we get these sort of moments of pressure. And if I had a drone and I wasn't moving between D and C, we'd hear, I don't have my symphonia tuned, otherwise I'd pull it out so we could just have a drone. But if we were going to stay in D the whole time and keep this drone, we'd hear a lot of that musical tension coming in. There would be more dissonance. But I also sense this is a piece that's moving back and forth in between those two modalities. I want to talk about the manuscript. So if we look here, nos liberare de miseriis et languoribus nostris. There are some, if you see, as we talk, just sort of hearkening earlier to the syllabic nature of the chant. What we're seeing here, and this is something that is absent from the modern edition, what we see, if you can follow my cursor here, is we have this very organic flow. And what we don't have are hyphens either. So we're seeing how a noon is placed above the syllable, and it's in general fairly straightforward to follow that. There's actually one place in the nos liberare, if you were following that, I moved that around. I did not like the way it looked in the text here, in the manuscript here. That's a whole other point. But I want us to sort of stay with line 7 for a sec. And I want us to just sort of follow along in the manuscript as best you can. Just see how that sort of feels. It might feel different, it might not. I bet it will. Here we go. So we have some language that feels like it's more intact. And how does that help us? Well, obviously, it's helpful because it's making sense of the language. But as we're actually singing it and practicing this embodiment of what we're saying and what we're asking and what we pray for, it's a leap to go from a page into the prayer. It's a leap to go from what comes out and is it right to this is my true desire. This is what's on my heart. And that's the kind of leap I would encourage you to take. And it's a leap of faith in yourself to have the capacity to do that, or to just not worry about it. I would like to go back to the beginning of this song, and I'd love to sing it all the way through with you. I'd love to know if anyone has any questions. It would be a good time to ask now. I'm going to leave the manuscript up for you to follow along as we go, if you'd like. There's a seed that we planted at the beginning of this song. And what I'm going to invite you to do is we go back to the beginning and work our way through this again, and we're going to forget what we talked about, and that's fine. But I'd like you to come back to the seed, which is, how are we able to become led? We are, intellectually, we are the sheep, and we are being led by the shepherd. What is required of us? What's our role in that? And how can we be led? There's a lot more to say there, but I'll stop there. Okay, let's keep going. We're going to go back to the beginning, everybody. O pastor animarum. And I want you to imagine that in every moment that you are pressing into something, that it's almost like a trigger to come back to the moment, to the heart, to the present, to what you're doing, really. Not just singing the notes, right? What you're really doing. Voice of the divine. Here we go, everybody. Just take a moment to breathe and come into the body and the breath and the heart. And awesome. It's a modest piece with a big invitation. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'd also love to know a takeaway, if there's something that really spoke to you, or an aha, or something you learned. I'd love to hear that. Or if it comes up for you later, just put it in the comments. We have one more community sing that's scheduled right now, next month. I don't know the date, but it's on Aya's website. But it's going to be Caritas Abundat. There's also a really wonderful offering that's coming up too in the very near future. I'm going to be posting it on Facebook, and I'm going to be sending out an email to our email list. So if you're not on that, please join it. And I'm just really excited to keep going deeper, and sort of giving us some new invitations into Hildegard's music, and into really fostering our own creative responses. Maria, hi Maria. Oh wow. So Maria's on YouTube. She says, this is so interesting. I've only seen square notes before. Yes. So this is this notation is it's in sort of on the timeline of notation. It's in between Hufnagelschrift and sort of Gothic notation. It's sort of an in-between phase, if you will. And notation was very, very regionalized too. So even though something like the musical staff was kind of a no-brainer to adopt, because the staff meant that we could standardize pitch. And so if I took my chant in Paris over to Cologne, you could basically understand my chant. Whereas before, in earlier notational styles, that was just not available. Monica says, I love the fluidity of this notation. Thank you for having the manuscript up for us to sing from. You're very welcome. You also have it on the AS site as well. The community sing, I think, is what you're talking about. Or maybe something else. But that doesn't matter. This is a really lovely opportunity to come together, and I'm really, really happy about that. Thank you so much. I'm just gonna come back to you here, full screen, and thank you for coming. Stay tuned for some really lovely opportunities. I really, it's important to me to foster opportunities for creative inclusion. Inclusion goes without saying, but a sort of creative inclusion as well. And I think that's something I want to really explore with more, with, what am I trying to say? Something that's actually manifested in the world, not just up here, but is actually shared through projects and a shared vision. So anyway, more on that. Laurie, you're welcome, Laurie. Monica, yes, the page that had the transcription. Also, oh, Monica, thank you so much. So Monica is saying that on the AO website, if you go to the song page for O Pastor Animarum, and most of the songs that we have so far in our library also have an image of the manuscript that you can click and it will pop up for you. And those are all taken from this Riesencodex, which is in the public domain here, which is great news for all of us. Thanks, Monica. Anyway, everyone, thank you so much for coming. It's a good time, I think, to close here, and I invite you to reach out anytime if you have any questions or ideas or ahas. I love hearing them. And I treasure you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, so much. Have a beautiful day, and we'll see you soon.